Hey guys. Okay, I'm just trying to see if this is actually happening. Here we go. Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good. Awesome. Cool. So thanks for your patience, guys. I know I'm a couple of minutes late starting, um, but it is something new that I'm still getting used to, streaming on YouTube. So thanks so much again for your patience. Today, I'm really excited to come to you kind of it's a semi-informal setting. I'm not bringing any like slides or anything like that in a traditional training or a traditional work shop that I would otherwise normally have. Um, but I'm just kind of looking because it looks like there's a little bit of lag here. So hang on just 1 second. Let me try and sort this out. Um, let's see, some skipped frames. Okay. Let me make sure I have everything else. Sorry, guys. Hang on 1 sec. Technical difficulties, of course. Um, okay, here we go. Okay. One of the things that might be happening later this year is a tech team. All right, so I have access to the chat. If you guys are watching on YouTube, which if you registered, if you follow me on LinkedIn or on Facebook, it will lead you to the YouTube stream. The recording will be posted elsewhere afterwards, but on the YouTube stream, you can leave a chat and I'll be able to see questions and messages. If you have trouble hearing me, that's more important than seeing me, then let me know because I want to make sure that we can communicate properly here. Okay, so it's the last week of March, right? Technically, the last couple of days will be next week, but we're coming to the end of the first quarter of the year. And the first quarter of the year has already been chock full of content, right? It's been full of lots of stuff happening on various different levels for pretty much everybody I've spoken to. Everyone is being impacted in some form or fashion by the news, by current events, by this continued rise in, what's happening in terms of basically civil rights here, basically the right to live, the right to pursue a fulfilling, happy life, the right to not be harassed and attacked just for who you are or where you come from. Um, and that takes a toll when you constantly hear about dangers that are happening, when you constantly hear about literally life threatening things on a daily basis. Of course, it's going to take its toll. So we have that. Also, I want to acknowledge there's been two mass murders from gun violence in the past 10 days, I believe. So it's a lot. And being part of the AAPI community myself, yeah, I'm walking around with making sure that I'm hyper aware of my surroundings more so than usual. I don't laugh because it's funny. I think it's just like I can't believe, well, I can believe like we're in the state that we are. Anyway, wherever you are in this particular position, um, you're going to be affected in some way by constant news that the overall messaging, things are bad, things are scary, we have problems, there are dangers, right? The overall messaging is nothing new and it perhaps becomes more and more personalized as time goes on and as this country in particular moves through its growing pains and evolves. And then on the personal level, each of us is still being affected in some kind of way by a global pandemic, right? So, whatever that looks like for you in terms of shifting the way that you work, shifting the way that you interact with the other people in your household, shifting the way that you connect with people, perhaps if you live alone or connect with people who you don't see anymore. Um, we've just entered 2021 with a lot of content. So we just want to be cognizant of that. And for a lot of folks, it's very wearing, where a lot of people are already running on fumes, and it's only still the first quarter of this year. Um, so where I'm finding people is that they're making it through the days. And let me know if this is you. Feel free to drop a note in the chat. They're going through the days, but it's only from surviving to surviving, just trying to get through the days, just make it through the days, make it through the weeks. Even if every day isn't difficult or a struggle or a grind for you, over the weeks it adds up, right? So processing the influx of scary stuff, right, in the world around us, processing the daily responsibilities that you have personally, professionally, managing all the roles, juggling and wearing all the hats. Let's use all the metaphors here. And then also, chances are, if you're part of my community, if you're in my world and we're connecting in this format, chances are you are also in a mind frame of wanting to level up somewhere in your life. You want something to expand. You want something to improve. You want something to be enhanced, right? Where you currently are is not your stopping point, right? So it doesn't matter how good, how bad, how preferred or unpreferred it is to you. If you're in my world, chances are you're ready and looking for the next norm, right? The next step for you. So how do we do it, right? How do we do it? We've made our way through Q1 to the best of our ability. You've used the tools in your toolbox. You've used the experiences. You've used your support systems. And we're here at the end of Q1. And if you're watching this video, you want to look forward into Q2 doing it better somehow. Also, you may have smashed Q1. Who knows? Maybe you had a stellar Q1 personally and professionally. Good for you. And you're here to do Q2 even better. In that case, awesome. I'm super happy for you. When we look to a new chapter, whether it's dividing by quarters, whether it's a brand new year, whether it's your birthday, whatever these historical markers are, or choose an arbitrary one, every single day that you are alive is a brand new opportunity for you to start moving forward in a slightly different direction or a whole new direction, depending on what's calling to you and what you're saying yes to, right? There's plenty of people who wish their life was different, and there's plenty of people who say no to making changes to move closer to that life that they would prefer, right? So the fact that you're here means that you're saying yes to moving closer to the life that you would desire, and you're looking to manage the content in which you're currently in already, right? Because let's not be Pollyanna about this. It's a phrase I've never used before until I started working with my mentor, and she uses Pollyanna. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a thing. So we don't always want to be we're in the space that I love to be, which is, visioning and wondering and daydreaming and playing in the space of imagination all the time, because there's stuff here and now, obviously, that needs our attention, right? There's stuff here in the content that's asking for our input, that's demanding time and energy and effort and our expertise in various different, probably multiple different arenas of your life. So we arrive at this, it's almost like the phrase visionary's quandary is coming to mind, but basically this seemingly conflict, a seemingly paradoxical situation where we're, yes, looking to make moves and live that life that we would love to be living, and yet where we are now needs our attention right here and now, right? So living in the future and playing what if all the time it's not necessarily the most productive thing, right? So today I've set aside basically 90 minutes to have a discussion and share with you some tools, some techniques to walk that balance where you're living your life and you are taking care of your responsibilities, you are showing up for the life that you are living right now, here in the present, and you are slowly moving the needle. You are slowly changing course to end up in a different spot that's better, more life-giving, more exciting, more fun, a life that is something that you would love even more than the life that you have now, right? So I hope this is useful. I hope that you have a notebook, because I'd love for you to take some notes. Like I said, there's no slides for this particular event. I'm probably going to go through this. I do have notes to work through, and I will also take your feedback, because this is going to be something that I probably develop into like a packaged mini course. So it's awesome that you get to experience this here live for free before it's packaged as like a proper course that is sold for students, such as yourselves in the future. So I'm psyched that you're here. Something also with the changing of the quarters is the changing of the seasons. So seasonal allergies are in full swing in my household, and thankfully I hardly suffer from them, but I do occasionally have a runny nose as a result. Okay, so 3 things we're going to address today. And this is meant to be more free-flowing, more laid back than a typical training. So if you're like ready to write and you're like, God, will she just get to it already? Just sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. Let's do some growing together. And it's going to be at this flow. So if that frustrates you, let's take a load off and let's reinterpret and think about, what does it look like to grow from a place of ease, from a place of relaxation, and from a place of flow. If that's not normal for you, perhaps that's a growing edge to explore, right? The 3 areas we're going to cover today are processing negativity, right? Because there's a lot of content, there's a lot in our circumstances that are telling us that we should be upset, telling us that you need to be negative, you need to be pessimistic, you need to be angry, you need to lower your quality of life. And I'm not saying that's a right or wrong thing. I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying that it's something to be mindful of as we move through our days, right? So the first thing we're going to talk about is processing negativity. The second, in a healthy way, right? That should be, I should put that as a caveat, in a healthy way. Secondly, we're going to talk about managing your day-to-day responsibilities. What does it look like to show up in your day-to-day life in a way that's not just surviving the day, surviving the weeks? And then finally, we're going to talk about moving toward vision. When I talk about vision, I'm talking about the version of our life that we aspire to evolve into. So what does that future version of our life look and feel like? What does that future version of ourselves look like and feel like? And how does she think? And how does she move and make decisions? And who does she hang out with? All of that stuff, it wraps up nice and neatly into this beautiful thing called a vision. You can also call it a dream. So we'll talk about that as well. So the first thing I want to, so I'm not going to break those sections down. I'm going to move from those topics as per these 3 tools. So yeah, I'm talking about 3 different areas of our lives, and also I'm talking about 3 different tools. So here's where you can start getting to writing. How we think, right? I don't know. I'm not sure how far, I'm not quite sure actually who's watching specifically, so I can't tell like who's where on what personal development path. So to cover all the bases, let me just lay a foundational groundwork here and instill the idea that the things that we believe about the world aren't necessarily true, right? The reality in which we each construct for ourselves is not necessarily true reality. And I'm not going to talk about the Matrix. I'm not going to talk about any of that, those theories out there. But I am talking about it from a mental science perspective. The thoughts that we use, the filters that we have to process stimuli around us, and stimuli is basically anything that's around us that we react to. Okay, it could be something that somebody says. It could be a way that a person treats us. It could be an action that we take. It could be something that we witness or a story that we hear. Anything that's outside of us that we interpret and interact with, count that as a stimulus, basically. So all of those things are simply doing their thing, right? Whether we like them the way they are or whether we wish they were doing their thing differently, inherently, they're just existing. They're just doing their things. They are neutral. Where it gets a little bit more complicated is where we ascribe meaning to those things. We assume that this means that this is bad. This is a good thing. This is a bad thing. Right? We start to throw labels, start to throw judgments because our brains like to categorize. Right? It likes nice little neat boxes to put things in. Oh, this person this person said a certain set of words. I'm interpreting those set of words as a compliment. Compliments are good, and that's how the filing, organizational system proceeds, right? This same person said a different collection of words, and I'm interpreting those as an insult or as a passive aggressive. It was hidden as an insult. So I'm going to interpret that as malicious, as hurtful, and I can't trust this person. So we start to file different groups of words in different boxes. You see what happens? So the brain is constantly looking for clues, looking for patterns, looking to assess as to, is this a safe environment for you to be in? What's your threat level in this situation? This thing that happened outside of us, what does it have to do with us? And is this good or bad or neutral for us? Is this something that we need to pay attention to as a danger or as a threat, right? So something that is going to be super helpful because we have a lot of stimulus around us is that we need to be mindful that the way that we're interpreting the world is first ascribing labels to neutral things. Everything just is. If you zoom out and take the huge perspective and look at Earth like a little marble, there's just stuff happening on that marble of a planet all the time. Has been for centuries, for decades, for millennia. There's stuff happening on this little marble at any given time. And then we zoom in to our bubble, you and yourself and your existence. And we start to get really tied up in how things are happening, and we get very emotionally caught up. Most people go around the world reactively. This thing is happening, this thing is happening, these things are happening on the marble that's relatively close to me, and therefore I need to be emotionally at the whim of those things happening. Most people live through their life reactively. And because of those reactions, we start to form patterns of when this person says this thing, I categorize it as this and I react accordingly this way. When another person says something similar, I categorize it as this, I react to it this way, and we build the habit and we do the thing over and over and over again. We receive input and we take it as truth. We take our brain's interpretation of it as truth. Not only is this good or bad, helpful, unhelpful, positive, negative, but we're also ascribing it as the way that I've categorized these things in my little mental boxes is true. The brain will assume that this is the correct way to organize our responses to these external things. Okay? So for us to remember that that's actually true with a lowercase t. It's true for me. My experience is this, and that's true for me. That doesn't mean that it's true for everybody. It doesn't mean that that's actually what's happening. That was basically just my brain's best guess at assessing whether this certain stimulus outside of myself was safe, was hurtful, was risky, was accepting, was comforting, was supportive. It's doing its best to label things in a helpful in a helpful way, and to say, okay, this is the way it is, and I'm going to believe it as this is the way it is. Okay? The first tool that you need to take with you as we navigate this crazy world is that the way that we interpret the world is not necessarily the way that it actually is. You have agency over how you interpret the stimuli around you. You have agency over how you process everything around you. So even if, let's say you have the same argument with the same person over and over again, you can predict it to a T as to how it's going to happen. Even if you see the same set of events play out in the same way over and over again, that doesn't mean that you can't interpret it differently in a way that serves you. Because the way that we interpret things is not always serving us. It's our brain's best attempt at doing it. But at the end of the day, sometimes it will interpret things as fear, as this is scary, as this is a threat, this is not okay, this is a huge risk, and that it'll stop us because we've put it in that box of not okay, not safe. Those assessments can get in the way of us going for goals, can get in the way of us growing, can get in the way of us developing meaningful relationships. It can get in the way of us essentially evolving into that version of ourselves that I mentioned at the beginning, right? So just because we're interpreting anything in a certain way up to now doesn't mean that it's actually truth with a capital T. It just means that it was our brain's best attempt at doing that. So what I want you to do is to neutralize stimuli first. When you take that really zoomed out approach and think of Earth as this tiny little marble where there's lots of stuff happening on the marble at any given time that has been for millennia and will continue to do for at least centuries. Hello, climate change. Let's make sure that we're on that. That this marble is just having stuff happen. Neutralize events, whether it's something someone says, whether it's a sequence of events, whether it's a piece of news or something that you heard of or witnessed. Neutralize it first and then intentionally ascribe labels, judgment, assessments. Okay? Because right now the brain is doing it automatically and it's not necessarily for our benefit. It's just doing the best that it can based on its survival instinct. Now, when you neutralize something first, what does that mean in practice? That means only stating the facts. Remember how I said just a little bit ago, when I was describing how the brain categorizes things as good and not good, putting things in different organizational boxes, how I described it in that example was this person said this group of words, and I'm interpreting that, I being the brain, I'm interpreting that as good, bad, this is an insult, this is a compliment, therefore it's good, therefore it's bad. How I described the situation was not this person paid me a compliment, so my brain interpreted it as a compliment and good. I said this person said a collection of words. It's super neutral. There's no judgment in there. It's only stating the facts. And it ends up being very vague, right? A collection of words. What does that even mean? They said something and then my brain went to work. That's what we want to do when we're neutralizing something. So let's say you have frustrations with somebody at work. You don't get along, you have interpreted their behaviors as trying to step on your territory or demean you in some way or devalue you or take credit for your work. Those are all labels and assessments that our brain has done the best that it can. Those assessments are probably causing not great feelings, right? It's probably creating not great interactions with that other coworker to the point where perhaps you're having an unpleasant experience or an unsupported experience even before you've had a meeting with that person. Just even thinking about interacting with that person creates these feelings of constriction, of cringe, of resistance. I don't want to, I can't believe I have to work with this person. All of that is being created from the chain of events and assessments that's happening up here in the brain, right? Nothing is happening out here, but the brain gets to work and it's pulling those files from that coworker that we have deemed as difficult or deemed as an opponent in some way, a competitor. And we're saying, this person, not okay to be around, gonna be unpleasant, gonna be a conflict. We're bracing ourselves mentally, and we might even be walking ourselves through the experience of this is how my interactions with this person happen, and they happen to my detriment. Therefore, we're putting up walls before that person has even, I was going to say walked into the room, but before that person has even maybe joined the call or joined the Zoom room, right? So we're creating an experience that is over time also physically detrimental by sending signals throughout our body that this is not okay, this is not a safe situation, this person is out to get you, you are going to face a threat. The body is like, okay, let's go to war. And it's going to be running the hormones through the systems that are built for confrontation, that are built for defense, that are built to negotiate unsafe situations. Those hormones, that situation, that type of stressor running through the body, not sustainable, not good for your health, not good for long-term health and well-being. And that has only happened, right? Because when we think about that person, our brain starts to pull the files that says, not okay. Mm-mm. I don't want this person. This is bad. This is a situation where I'm not going to be respected or devalued. So neutralize the thoughts and the experiences first. State only the facts, right? And if in this particular situation with a difficult coworker, difficult being a judgment, we wouldn't say difficult. We would only say, I have a work colleague and we have different work styles, we have different interpretations of tasks and challenges and assignments given to us from our supervisor. That's simply in this particular example, exactly what's happening. So it's not false. It's not trying to, make everything nice and fun and pretend like everything is okay. We're simply rebuilding a foundation from only the neutral stimulus first, neutral version of the stimulus first. And then we can say, okay, this person thinks about challenges differently than I do. They approach tasks differently. They have a certain communication style that might be different from mine. So let me come back to the neutral situation. We work together. We're on the same team, perhaps. We want to achieve the same goal. Again, these are just facts on facts on facts, neutral, devoid of judgment. Now, once you have all your facts about a situation, then start adding the assessments and any kind of judgments or opinions that are going to serve the goal. Okay? Not to serve your opinion about this person necessarily. This isn't just to like make nice and to pretend like this is a great person to work with and this is fine. But if the goal is being compromised because we're getting too involved in automatic labeling of a situation, we need to reassess how we're doing this, and we need to start assessing and judging and adding opinions with intention. And that intention is to say, how can I think about this? How can I interpret this stimulus in a way that's going to serve my goal? And right now, my goal is to get my work done to my best ability and to show up and do a good job. Do a job that's reflective of who I am, and I want to stand by this with integrity and to hopefully move up in this career. So we start to think about, okay, how can I think about this person? How can I think about what they're trying to achieve in a way where we can both go for those goals? Because chances are that person probably has the same goal. They want to do a great job. They want, recognition. They also want to move up in the company. So when we approach the stimulus from how can I interpret this in a way that serves me and my goal, then we start to insert ourselves back into the power equation. Instead of letting the brain run automatically and just do the best it can given very limited information. And that limited information is just past experience, right? So neutralize the things happening first. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and they were very sweet. They were reaching out to me and saying, there's a lot of all this crazy stuff with the rise in hate crimes and racist attacks and things like that. How are you doing? Are you okay? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, aside from on a personal level, like, yes, I'm worried for people like my father and my friends. And it's in the back of my mind, but it's not paralyzing me. I'm not staying up late, biting my nails and getting super worried and like getting gray hair over it. I'm not, because I zoom back out to that little marble thing and I say, okay, there are people in this world, and neutralize it first. There are people in this world who have opinions about certain groups of people, and because they have not learned the tools to emotionally process correctly and in a healthy way, sometimes those feelings can bubble over into acts of aggression, verbally, physically, lots of different ways. So it's not saying that I'm okay with, these attacks, but in my mind, I need to get through my day. I need to work to be the best version of myself. I need to work to show up and support my communities. And if I'm staying up late and worrying myself and stressing out all the time, that's not doing anybody any favors. And so my interpretation of these situations is to first neutralize it so I can take that that mental drain, that emotional drain of worrying and being scared, take it out of the equation, put it in some perspective and say, okay, there's always been in the history of humans being alive on this planet, there's always been an element of mistrust of people you don't understand, mistrust of a group that is different from you. So how can I look at this in a way that helps me get through the day and show up with a clear head? There's always going to be racism. There will always be. There will always be people who don't know how to process difficult, challenging, destructive emotions in a way that's healthy, and sometimes that will bubble over as acts of aggression. That's just part of our species, right? So given that that's a component of just being part of the human species, what do I want to do about it? Now, if in this interpretation, in this example, I'm neutralizing the situation emotionally, right, and just stating the facts, and then the goal for me is to say, okay, what do I want to do with this? I want to be part of the solution. So how can I think about this in a way that helps me serve the AAPI community, that helps me serve communities of color? Okay. So if I'm coming to the table just fraught with fear, with anger, and I'm just like emotions first and just running, through feel the feelings. Yes. I'm not saying that feeling emotions and feeling reactions is a bad thing. I'm saying that before we move into action, let's be smart about this. Let's be clear-headed about this. Let's neutralize. Let's assess and say, okay, this is what's happening. My goal is to be a productive member who supports her communities and the communities of others. So what can I do given the fact that this is a thing? So in my particular situation, I best serve with helping people understand their thought processes and emotions much better in a more constructive way. And because that's where I do my best work, now I can show up and serve the community in that way because I've thought about the situation in that way. I've interpreted what my role could be in this situation because I neutralized it first. Because otherwise, if I was just reacting, I might run out and be like, joining the first protest I see and just throwing stuff all up over social media and, just emoting. And it's not saying that those things are bad things. Yes, we need activism. Yes, we need protests. Yes, we need social media presence. Is it the best use of my particular skill set? For me, it's not. For a lot of other folks who are, they're well-organized activists, they're great with organizing large groups of communities, that's where they shine the best. But for me, that would be dispersing my energy in a less than productive way, right? And so for us to show up as the most fulfilled, best version of ourselves that play to all of our strengths and where we truly desire to shine, we must neutralize the things that trigger us. We must neutralize the things that are stimulating our mental categorizations, right? So if you have any questions about that, please drop them in the chat, by the way. And for those of you who are, I just wanted to throw this metaphor out there. It doesn't really fit neatly in this, but if you're having trouble with the events that you're hearing on the news, remember that acts of aggression have existed since man existed, humankind existed. They will continue to exist, right? Think of it perhaps as like we're hearing more and more about it because there's more coverage about it. There's lots of activity happening around it. Think of it, I like to think of it as this disgusting, moldy Tupperware that's in the back of your fridge that has just always been there. And now it's gotten so bad that it's gotten so pervasive and that the smell is now affecting all the other food in the fridge and whatnot, that it's time to clean out the Tupperware. It's time to look at the Tupperware and say, okay, there's that moldy sandwich in there that I left months ago and is now a giant science experiment in the fridge. It's time to clean it out. When you think of all the surge in coverage, really, of these acts of violence that are happening and have been happening, let's be honest, to me, it's like, okay, time to clean out the fridge. We got to look at this. We have to take a look at this as a country. So, in case that metaphor helps anyone, I'll just leave it there. The second tool I want to share with you is something I kind of touched upon before. Our brain is categorizing things, right? And it's doing the best that it can, and it's judging those things as truth. This is how it is. This is the way the world is. That's the story that it's telling. That's the narrative that is forming as it goes and categorizes different things around us. Now, I want you to start, ideally, actually, something I've been wanting to do for a long time was get like a custom little notebook. I don't have one handy here, but like a mini notebook. Or if you just have like a series of pieces of paper or something. And at the top, you write core truths. And you make sure to capitalize the T of truths. Because these are very grounding foundational principles that you can come back to when the brain has basically just had enough. You know, if it's tired, if it's stressed, or if you're finding yourself in a situation being like, you know what, the way I'm thinking about this is really stressing me out. I'm stressing myself out. I'm showing up and regretting the way that I show up in conversations. I'm regretting the way that I'm showing up for my relationships. I feel like I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to work or whatever it is. Come back to this list of core truths about foundational principles. One of the core truths I would love you to work with over the next 3 months is the statement, everything works to grow me. We like to, like I said before, the brain is like to categorize things into this is bad for me, this is good for me, this is safe for me, this is unsafe for me, this is risky, this is a threat, this is okay. It's more likely to assess something as a threat, especially if you're unfamiliar with it, than as a safe place or as an okay place to relax and put your guard down, bring your guard down. When we start to infuse our beliefs and our thoughts and the reality that we've constructed for ourselves with the foundational core truth that everything works to grow me, everything starts to look a little bit differently. These challenges that we face, maybe negative stories or scary, fearful news reports and stuff that we receive, or we have a difficult person that we're dealing with, or we're having challenges relating to somebody, whatever it is. If we're struggling with, generating money, if we're feeling like time is always scarce, the situation when we add the filter of this truth, everything works to grow me, when we can see all of these things through that filter, the brain starts to get to work and get creative. Okay, so, in this situation, I've been really sick for the past couple of weeks. Hypothetically, I hope this is not you. If it is, I wish you a speedy recovery soon. When we start to look at our situation that is unpreferred, when we start to look at it through the lens of everything works to grow me, then we start to say, okay, how am I going to grow through this? What can I learn here? How can I move through this in a way where I'm stronger, where I'm more skillful, where I'm more knowledgeable on the other side of this? Then the brain is searching for, okay, growth, expansion, creation, instead of just get by, make it through, survive through this. It's a more long-term perspective versus just here and now. What can I do to just make this stop, make this better, get through this so I don't have to experience this anymore? You're going to come up with different ways of moving through that situation than if you were just in the present moment and just trying to get through it. If you're more focused on this long-term, well, if everything works to grow me, then this situation is also to grow me. So how am I going to grow through this? That's a decision that you can make as well. That's important to point out, guys, that you can decide that your current circumstances will grow you. So even if it's just something as like, I'm tired of the same routine, I'm tired of how life is. I'm tired of the mundane ritual of it, the routine of it. Decide that this chapter of your life, the routine that you're tired of now, how is that going to grow you? Maybe it's going to grow you by you now understand what it is to get stuck in a rut. You understand it differently. You understand it more deeply. And perhaps you develop a lower tolerance for it. So as you move from this routine into your next chapter, because you've decided that this is going to grow you, you're going to take that lesson with you and say, okay, next time, for this next chapter of my life, I'm not going to get caught in the old routine. I'm not going to let myself be lulled into this pattern and make excuses and settle, basically, because I know this better now because of this chapter that I'm coming out of, and that's not happening going forward. The decision to grow, we're always growing, we're always learning, we're always absorbing information, but sometimes we're a little bit unconscious about it, right? Sometimes we're just kind of going through the motions, and we're not consciously understanding what it is that we're absorbing, right? Sometimes we're just sleepwalking through life, right? When you decide that everything works to grow you, your eyes are open, you're more awake, you're more alert to detecting where are the lessons? What can I know better? What can I do better? What skills can I develop? What part of myself can I develop? How can I do tomorrow better, more masterfully than I did today? And we start to really create this forward momentum. So on one hand, you're choosing active growth, right? Instead of passive growth, where you're just kind of, you're going and yeah, you have more experience because time has passed. You have more experience with life because things have happened and you happened to witness them or be part of them. Yes, you are growing in that version of life. But when you have decided everything works to grow me, this is a core foundational truth that I live my life by now. You're walking through life with intention. You're putting one foot in front of the other purposefully and with your eyes open, right? So on one hand, this core foundational truth, when you adopt it as true for you, capital T, true, yes, you're living more actively through life. And you, how do I want to say this? You're doing more to prevent yourself from being a victim of life. When things don't go to your preference, let's say if you fall ill, or if an accident happens, or something, you get disappointing news or something. I don't wish this on any of you, but that is part of life, right? So when those things happen, when things don't go to your preferred way of going, and you can come back to this core tenet of everything works to grow me, it puts those things that we would rather not experience and aren't thrilled about participating in, it puts that in perspective to help you go through these challenges with a determination to grow instead of the what's commonly called the victim mentality, whatever. I'm not a huge fan of, but you're basically at the mercy of the thing. Why is this happening to me? Why is this? Why me? It always happens to me. Oh, that's just life. It's going to happen. It sucks. Or it's supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to be unpleasant. It really puts you behind the eight ball. It really puts you at the mercy of whatever's happening in life. Now, when you decide everything works to grow me, it's not just the big things. If you have good things happen in your life, if you have challenging circumstances that you go through, um, it's also the here and now, like, pieces as well. Um, the whether this a conversation that you're having with someone in the moment, how can I show up in this conversation in a way that's going to stretch me, that's going to grow me? How can I practice showing up in a way that I would really prefer to show up instead of how I might normally show up, right? So someone might say something where in the past you might feel uncomfortable or might be angry and react to that. But if you approach the conversation with, well, this conversation works to grow me, we can start to say, okay, well, part of growth is practice, part of growth is stretching and evolving and practicing being the next version of ourselves. So let me practice being more compassionate. Let me practice being a better listener. Let me grow my ability to empathize with someone. Let me grow my curiosity in this moment. So it's not just using this core truth of everything works to grow me to apply to large circumstances and to build our momentum in life, but it's also the micro aspects as well. How does this, if you're driving a car, how does this, everything works to grow me? This traffic jam that I'm stuck in works to grow me. Then the brain starts to think, okay, how is it growing me? Well, I'm getting to know patience better. I'm getting to understand patience better. I'm getting to understand how I interpret frustration better. So I would love you to just write that down. Everything works to grow me on a little piece of paper around core truths with a capital T, and work with that over the next 3 months. Over the next quarter, if everything works to grow you, how would you love to come out the other side? Halfway through the year, what would you love to be better at the next time we speak, right? Okay, so that's the second thing. The first lesson, we were talking about neutralizing life first, neutralizing stimuli around us first, and then interpreting those stimuli in a way that are serving you and your vision and your goals. Secondly, we talked about working with a core truth, that everything works to grow you. Finally, third, this is a good one, guys. Um, Actually, first I'm getting a little bit hoarse. Hang on. Mm. I see a question. Heidi, hello. I'm so glad you're here. So glad you're listening. I ended up deciding to not do a formal workbook for this. I wanted it to be a little bit more free flowing. The course version of it that I will develop later, will have a formal, like, workbook to go with it, as do pretty much all of my other trainings and workshops. But for this one, don't worry, you're not missing out. I decided to not go with it with a specific workbook for this one. So just, you can watch the replay, you can refer back to your notes. So yeah, you're not missing anything. Okay, the third lesson for reflecting on Q1 and resetting yourself for Q2 is around being grateful and being hungry. Funny enough, gratitude can be a total dream killer. Gratitude gratitude can be misused, essentially. And it's just, we're all basically, unskilled, learning how to be more skilled in this life. So we're all growing, we're all basically learning how to crawl to walk, and some of us desire to learn how to run as well. um, So we're all doing the best that we can. And some folks, a lot of folks, misuse gratitude to keep them stagnant, to keep them stuck. And that's the thing. Just be grateful for what you have. I'm just grateful that I have a job. I'm just grateful that I'm in a relationship. I'm grateful for my health and my family, and I'm good. That's all I need, right? I'm just grateful I have a roof over my head. I don't need millions of dollars. I'm just grateful that I'm employed. These things are awesome. There's nothing that bad about these sentiments. It is the use of gratitude to rationalize one's dissatisfaction with where they are that gets problematic. When we're using gratitude to keep us complacent with where we are and to say, this is good enough. Thank you, life. But no, I think, this is all I would like to grow. This is all of life I would like to experience. Thank you very much. Then we have decided to build a ceiling over ourselves. We have decided that this is as good as it gets for number one. And that's the misuse of gratitude. The better use of gratitude is to is to express gratitude for what you have, and pro tip, express gratitude for what is to come. We don't want to start to say, okay, well, I've been walking this path in life and so far, and you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and erect a stop sign right in the middle of my path and say, nope, I'm good. I'll just keep doing my things and keep running my cycles and just keep doing life the way that I know how to do life, and that's good enough. I would like to stop now. Thank you. Gratitude for what we have experienced, the people in our life, all good things, and get rid of that stop sign that you've erected in the path in front of you, and be grateful for the things that have yet to arrive. Be grateful for the things that are on their way. I can't wait. I'm so grateful for my future opportunities. I'm so grateful for that additional income that's coming my way. I'm so grateful for the amazing people that I get to experience and have amazing conversations with in the future. I'm so grateful for the challenges that I have yet to face because I know they're going to grow me. Hey, you could tie these three lessons together, right? When you are grateful for what is to come, you allow yourself to be hungry. You allow yourself to desire something more out of life. And that's the thing, guys. Life, the force of life, the stuff that is animating us and making us sentient, the fact that you are alive, the fact that you are made of the same stuff as the rest of the universe and all the stars and planets is bonkers, first of all. It's nuts when you think about it. And what's even more nuts is that not only do our molecules exist, and it's the same stuff as stardust, basically, not basically, it is the same components of stardust, the fact that you are alive, you are sentient, you get to move these molecules in a way of your own decisioning. You get to move these molecules around in a way that is of your own design, and you are aware, and you can connect with other beings who are aware and building their own lives. Amazing, huge gift. Huge gift. The fact that you exist, you're made of stardust, you're on this planet at the same time as me, and we get to interact like this is amazing. Amazing. Life coming through us does not want to say, okay, you're good enough now, and I'm going to go make someone else's life more fulfilling. I'm going to grow that person. Over time, we are subjected to the notion that you shouldn't dream, that it is selfish to want for yourself, and that you should sacrifice everything for everybody else, and that you should just be grateful for what you have. Remember, misuse of gratitude. And that It's risky, and like I said before, selfish to desire anything greater. For some reason, people have opinions over what you want for yourself, and feelings of guilt, feelings of shame, feelings of selfishness become very common, and more so the more you go through life. The thing is that life is constantly looking to evolve, constantly looking to grow, constantly looking to expand. This life force that's literally in every living thing, until the physical aspects can't keep up anymore, and then we pass on, right? It's important to stay hungry because it honors the life force that is within you. It is important to entertain what you desire, because what you desire is specific to you. What would you love? The folks that work with me are, they probably have my voice on repeat in their head all the time, because I'm constantly asking them the question, what would I love? And I'm encouraging them to ask themselves, what would I love? Not what do you think is reasonable? What do you think is a logical, safe place, safe bet? Or what do you think you can achieve reasonably within the next 3 years? The question is, what would I actually love? You would be surprised to understand how difficult that question is for most people to answer, because we feel like it's not an okay question for us to even entertain. Part of the question, something that happens with me, and this is my life basically. So you would think that I'm like, I've got this question in the bag, I'm a pro at this. But because obviously human being in this play space, same as you, sometimes I get scared to ask myself the question, what would I love? Because I know that the answer means stuff has got to change. When you take a look at, well, what would you love to do in terms of how you share your gifts and talents with the world? Your work, your vocation, your career, your volunteering, your skills. If what you would love is different than what you are doing now, that can cause fear. That can cause constriction. Say, if I acknowledge that I would love to be doing something else, that means I have to also acknowledge that I don't love where I'm at now. And we are so good at adapting to our current circumstances and justifying why we don't move forward and why we don't change, that to acknowledge we would love something else and we don't love what we're doing now, you can't unsee it. And that's tricky to work with. That's an acknowledgement that you have to face. And essentially what happened to me is I used to be a program manager in tech in Silicon Valley. And it was great on the outside, but on the inside I was like, I don't love this. I don't love this at all, actually. But when I acknowledged that I didn't love it, all of a sudden my day-to-day work became extraordinarily grating. It was like going from like, oh, this I don't know. My metaphors are so crazy and they just come out of nowhere, but it's like running your hand over sandpaper. You're like, oh, it's kind of rough. And that's your day-to-day routine. And this is my life. And just it's kind of sandpapery. It's kind of rough. It's fine. I get used to it. When you acknowledge you don't love it and you would actually love something else instead, then instead of running your hand over sandpaper, it's like running your hand over splinters. Every little thing now becomes a huge reminder that what you're doing now isn't what you would love to be doing. The chasm, this small gap, becomes now a huge chasm. And there can be a serious amount of internal turmoil that happens as a result. So I fully recognize the gravity of the question, what would I love? Even though it's very simple, it's only a couple of words strung together. Neutralize it. This coach that I watched online, she said a couple of words and now my guts are all in turmoil. It happens a lot. I kind of have that effect on people. The desire that's coming within you is not something to be afraid of. It is something to entertain, and it is actually honoring the life force that animates you, that brings you alive, because life wants to grow, it wants to stretch you, and that includes how you live your life. That includes how you take care of your physical body. That includes how you're developing your skills mentally, physically, emotionally. That includes you developing whatever relationship you have with whatever area of spirituality you have and understanding a larger place in this universe. It's always evolving. You never reach your done point. Every single day is a new opportunity for you, and every single day you get is an opportunity for you to be grateful for where you're at and where you've been, and hungry for more. Well, grateful for where you're at, where you've been, and where you're going and have yet to experience, and also hungry for more. Because what's bringing you alive is different. What you're hungry for, what you're gonna desire is gonna be different than another person. What I would love for myself is gonna be different than what you would love for yourself. And that's important because the thing that we get attached to, say, you know what, I would really love to be, I don't know, a professional skydiver, or a singer, or I would love to write a book. I would love to, learn how to paint alfrescos or something. I don't know. Whatever it is that you would love to be, to do, to have, right, is the thing that attaches you to encourage you to grow. The thing that brings you alive, the things that you're feeling that like, oh, I would really love this. Wouldn't it be awesome if every morning I had poached eggs for breakfast? I don't know. Whatever it is, no judgment here. Um, then that's not the goal. You get attached to that thing because you would love to experience it, and it's our three-dimensional world. Like that's the stuff I want to play in. That's the context. But the path to getting there is what's actually important, what's actually happening. So it doesn't matter if you want to become a world famous pottery master, if you want to become a singer, if you want to have a better relationship with your estranged family. Who knows? Whatever your situation is, what you would love is going to require you to grow. It's going to require you to know yourself differently. It's going to require you to develop different skills and talents. It's going to require you to shed some old habits that are no longer serving you. It's going to require you to learn how to interact with fear differently. It's going to require you to develop different character aspects of yourself, learn what it is to step into the non-traditional path. All of those things and more. This super fun place you get to be, where you're constantly uncomfortable and constantly growing because you're just so in love with this thing that you desire. That process is the purpose of the dream, the vision. So when you can stay grateful and hungry, you can guarantee that you're going to stay in a place of self-evolution and deepening your self-mastery. So those are the three areas that, if you can focus on these as you move forward into April, into May, into June, at the end of June, June 30th, you can come out a different person. You can come out as a person who you're truly proud of having developed, and the rest of the people in your world get to experience this awesome version of you. And you get to also move that much closer to this vision life. Okay, so when we think of these three talents, the neutralizing the stimuli around us first, and then assessing them in a way that's going to serve us and serve our goals, and then normalizing and indoctrinating ourselves with the truth that everything works to grow us, right? And then staying grateful and in a space of desire for more, saying hungry for more. That's going to help you manage not just your day-to-day activities, because you're showing up to life differently at that point. You're showing up for your responsibilities. You're interacting with your people and your needs and your desires here and now. You're going to be interacting with those differently. You're going to be processing challenging and negative circumstances and news and input differently, because you're looking at it with a very different lens. And then also, this is inherently going to be moving you toward the vision version of what you would love for yourself to be, do, and have, what kind of life you would love to be living, how you would love that life to look and feel, what kind of version of yourself you would love to evolve into. It's all wrapped up into this nice little package of deciding to live with intention, deciding to empower yourself through the days with your sights set on this is the direction we're moving in. So even though we're showing up today in today's context and today's contents, we're learning how to master the here and now context differently and more masterfully. And we're growing ourselves in the direction, instead of just surviving and looking I just want to get from today to tomorrow. We're now shifting our vision to, well, I'm going to grow through today. I'm going to grow through tomorrow. I'm going to more masterfully and more in a more empowered fashion interpret the contents of my current present. And I'm going to be feeding energy intentionally toward my vision, toward where I would love to be long term, instead of just surviving from day to day, week to week, month to month. You don't want to wake up at the end of June. I was going to say the end of next year, a year from now. You don't want to wake up in the same life a year from now, because that means you didn't give life a chance to grow through you in a significant way, right? I was originally going to say you don't want to wake up a year from now and be in that position. You really don't want to wake up 3 months from now and be in that position. Let me turn up the heat a little bit. Let me turn up the gas. You don't want to end up in that position, the same mentalities. You might still be, in the same house, same relationship, same job, that's fine. It's not the stuff on the outside that's most important. It's the stuff of how you're doing life on the inside. Do you still want to be running the same habits that aren't serving you anymore 3 months from now? Do you still want to be reacting to stress the same way as you do currently? Is it helping you? Is it hurting you? Is it beneficial to your body, to your mind, to your spirit? Is it hindering you? Do you end up getting exhausted for the weekend once you hit Friday? Do you want to still be dreading Mondays because of how you're thinking about work? Right? Remember that in the beginning I was talking about that example with the coworker that was having challenging interactions with, and with how we create these mental gauntlets that we run through, and we mentally and emotionally beat ourselves up, when really we're just sitting there and it's all happening inside of our heads. We're building the anticipation of this being a difficult thing that we have to stress about, and it's going to be awful, and it's going to be painful and difficult, when really the pain and the struggle of the situation that we're anticipating, we're actually experiencing it right here and now, and the situation isn't even happening. Do you still want to be doing that to yourself in whatever form that takes 3 months from now? You definitely don't want to be doing it a year from now, but do you at least want to be on the path 3 months from now to be more in control of that, to be less at the mercy of that, right? So to recap, what can you walk away with? First, life is happening. We're all on this little marble in space where stuff is happening on the surface of this marble. It will continue to happen. It has been happening for millennia. We just happen to be in the path of some of that content at this point in time, in the grand scheme of things. Okay? So when some of that stuff starts to aggravate us and start to create an experience that we would rather not be experiencing, first, neutralize it first. Facts only. How can you describe the situation in the most basic, facts only, descriptive way possible, to the point where it feels ridiculous, right? Where it feels like, what are you even talking about anymore? When the situation itself you can't even recognize it. Then, after you neutralize it, then you can add an interpretation, a narrative, in a way that's serving you and serving your goals. Okay, serving where you want to be headed, how you want to grow. Second, work with the core truth. And there's plenty of core truths. I part of the overall kind of like flagship course that I have, I just recorded one of the lessons and I'm super excited about it because it goes through it was like 7 or 8 core truths that people spend a lot of time and energy learning and accepting as truth with a capital T for themselves. And there's work there, but I love it because I think, you know what, I think I'm probably I have a series of books that I am going to be releasing. That's going to be one of them, core truths. Just a small thing. But anyway, the core truth for you, for your immediate purposes, for the next 3 months, the core truth for you to work with is everything works to grow me. Okay? Take that on as a mantra, throw it on a post-it note, throw it all over your house, put it on the microwave, put it on your bathroom mirror, write it on your hand, put it on an alarm on your phone multiple times a day so that it just seeps in and it becomes just second nature to you. Everything works to grow me. When you come from that as a foundational truth, everything changes. Everything changes. That's only the second lesson. The third lesson was to stay grateful, truly grateful. Like for those of you who have an active gratitude practice, you know that, and perhaps you're working on this, the way that we think about things generates the emotions that we feel, and the emotions that we feel generate the decisions and actions we take. So the thoughts that you have around gratitude, what are you grateful for? What are you really grateful for in this moment? You can generate the feeling, not in just an emotional space, but also in a physical space of expansiveness. You can feel your chest expand when you touch into that true gratitude. I am so grateful to be alive right now. I am so grateful to be in a time where I can sit in my house while there is a pandemic raging outside and come through technology to connect with you about stuff like this. It's bonkers, like I said before. When you're grateful for where you've been, what you get to experience, and grateful for the things that are yet to come, you lift your eyes from, it's almost like, if you've ever seen people say, you know, if a kid has had a bad day, you'll have like a coach or a mentor or something go up to the kid and lift their chin up and say, hey, chin up, eyes up. These 3 tools are basically lifting your chin up and say, hey, eyes up. Because I would not be surprised. I would not judge you. I would not be it wouldn't surprise me in the least if by the end of March, you're in a space where your eyes are down and you're just looking to make it from day to day, week to week, saying the weight of the world, the way the world is happening, and you know, all this stuff that's happening in my life. I wouldn't be surprised if you came into 2021 like, yes, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and let's conquer the year, let's do this. And that the things that have happened in the first quarter have left you feeling kind of deflated, eyes down, just trying to make it through the day. You probably, if you are not this, you probably know people like this. These tools can help you pick your eyes up, look more toward the future, looking to thriving instead of surviving. As cliche as it sounds, a lot of coaches use that terminology. A lot of motivational speakers use that term. You don't want to be surviving, you want to be thriving, but it's true. It's true. So many of us settle for a life where we're just getting by. We're just grateful for what we have. I'm just grateful I have a roof over my head. I'm just grateful I have a job. That's great. Be grateful for those things and be grateful for the things that you have yet to receive and stay hungry for that future stuff. Feel that passion. Build a desire for more. It's not selfish because it's going to grow you to be a more fulfilled, more vibrant version of yourself that gets to serve the community better, that's going to show up in their relationships better, that gets to do more amazing things, that's going to impact more people better. Growing yourself is only good. Okay? So anytime that little voice says, I feel so selfish working on myself, I feel so selfish investing in myself, feel so selfish taking time for myself. The work you're doing for yourself, everyone who you know and don't know gets to benefit from the energy and effort that you put in. All right, guys. So if you're watching the live version, I'm gonna wrap it up for the evening because I allocated 90 minutes and we have about 10 minutes left. Feel free to throw some questions in the chat. If you're watching the replay, awesome. Feel free also to throw some questions in the chat or as comments. I get notified, even if it's after the fact, if you add a comment or a question, so don't worry about that. I'll respond as soon as I can. And also, if you have any questions at all, if you would love to connect more about this, or if this would be surprised, if this opens something up for you and you're like, dang, like, you know what, she's right. She's right. I can't unsee it. Where do I want to go from here? And you need support with that, reach out. You know how to reach me. However you found this, if it's through LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. I'll also put my email address, the public one, in the description after the fact. Feel free to reach out. I'm here to help. You are not here to, like I said, plant a stop sign in your path. You are here to grow. You're here to thrive. You're here to flourish because life animated you and it's not finished with you. You're still here. You're still breathing. Let's find out what brings you alive and let's get you going and let's create some amazing experience for yourself. All right, folks, have an amazing rest of your Thursday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please share this with someone who might benefit from it. If they're kind of stuck in a rut or if they're just deflated from Q1 and they could use a little pick-me-up, please share this with them. And I will let you know of the next one. This will be a quarterly type of event, and I'm putting out stuff all the time. So I'll be in touch. We will talk soon. Reach out if you need support. Reach out if you want to share some wins as well. Share some revelations. That'd be great. Leave that in the comments. All right, guys. I'll see you next.